Hey guys, welcome to episode 8 of Into the Van. I am Mike West, and I cannot thank you enough for listening to this podcast and your support. It means the world to me, so thank you so much for tuning in. If you've been following the podcast from the beginning, I've been lucky enough to sit down with musicians, promoters, managers, comic book writers, and I really want to get a full spectrum of the creative mediums that I love and I'm passionate about. And I couldn't not talk to people in the podcasting field. This is a new podcast, so it's as much about me getting as much knowledge and insight into the format as I can, while also sharing it. So if you're new to the podcast game or you want to start one, just do it. I 100% believe you can. And yeah, just put out something that you believe in and something you care about, and just try and make the world a better place through however you want to change it. This episode is with Pet Patsilivas from the Caged In podcast. Of course, I'm going to pick someone who has a Nicolas Cage podcast. I'm a huge fan of the actor. I've seen a shit ton of his movies, and this just seemed like a logical thing. I am going to be doing an episode of Caged In podcast, so keep an eye out for that. Make sure you follow the Caged In podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all that good stuff. I'm super excited to get this conversation on the way. A caveat and a quick warning, or a quick, non-warning. This isn't exclusively a Nicolas Cage talk. We don't talk for an hour about how great he is, how much we love his films, how diverse his films are. That goes into it a bit, but this is a podcast advice podcast as well. This is about booking guests, expanding your audience, promoting yourself on Twitter, promoting yourself on social media. There's a lot of things in this that aren't just us kissing Nicolas Cage's ass for an hour. So I really hope you keep with this podcast, and hopefully you'll pick up some interesting things. But for now, let's get on to the sponsors, which of course are very limited because it's just me. So today's sponsor is, of course, The Next Life, my record, which is coming out on August 7th. We've got the single Rock Ferry coming on July 10th, and I can't wait for this. We've approved the test pressings. They're getting printed now. We've approved the artwork for the CDs. They're getting printed now, and it's all on its way. The only thing we can't do is actually play a live show for you yet, but hopefully down the line we will be able to. If you haven't pre-ordered The Next Life yet, I'm going to put a sample in now, and I hope you'll dig it. I hope you'll head over to my Bandcamp or my store at mike333west.com and pick up a copy there.
As the fire dies and we say our goodbyes, I hear the ghost of me say, all the battles we lost and the wars that we won go on to define us someday. We'll let the summer pass and move on at last to the seasons that make us age. But at least I will know that the older we grow, in the chapter we share the same face.
So there you go, folks. That is track 8 of The Next Life. That is for them. I wrote about my friends that I've grown up with for many years, and you can pre-order that track along with its 8 other friends on The Next Life, my upcoming record coming out August 7th. This episode is also brought to you, I know, 2 sponsors, it's also brought to you by Rogue Country. This is an initiative me and some of my artist friends have set up because we don't feel that the UK scene represents ourselves and our music and the music we like properly, and we feel that we can change that in our own way and start our own scene and start our own thing. So we've set up a Facebook page, a group. We're starting a little movement. We're going to be putting on some shows when we're allowed to, and we're really getting the ball rolling on this. So if you head over to Rogue Country on Facebook, and if you dig my music, or you dig the likes of Josh Bettis or Kings and Queens, or Alex Tempest, Sean James, Amigo the Devil, Sierra Ferrell, Sarah Shook, anything that's rooted in that traditional roots sound from country, blues, and folk, but got that modern spin on it, that modern twist, that darker edge. You're going to love Road Country, so make sure you head over to that. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Nicolas Cage and podcasting. So please join me now in listening and welcoming Pet Patsilivas and the Caged In podcast Into the Van with Mike West. Here we go. Welcome to Into the Van with me, Mike West. Go! Cool. So, Pat, thank you so much for joining me on this podcast. It's meant to be like Into the Van. I started it because I wanted to talk to people face to face in my actual van. Like I've got a camper that I tour out of, but because of everything that's gone on, this has allowed me to talk to American friends and things. And then you put out a shout out on Twitter. I've been following you for a while from your podcast about wanting to be on things. So I thought this was the perfect opportunity too. But the Caged In podcast, how did that come about? And it's like, what's the origin story of it?
Well, it's a really interesting one because like there is this, I guess there's a really easy misconception that, and I think it's like, it's a hard sale for me, like to kind of get people to listen a lot of the time because they kind of think, and I see it from people, like I'm constantly sent stuff anytime Nicolas Cage is like mentioned in the news and stuff like that, or
I get them articles as well.
Any pictures of those crazy like cushions, do you know what I mean? That you like go one way, and I'm like, yeah, that's like, yeah, great. And but I was never like a fanatic of Nicolas Cage. I just like. I've always been interested in like films, and I've always been interested in this idea of like art versus commerce and stuff like that, and just found like Nicolas Cage really, really interesting because for somebody who's had like a 30-year career, has released over 100 movies.
Yeah.
And like, especially in the fact from 2009 to 2020, he has released half of the like films of his career, so in the space of 10 years. And it was like, right, just solely on a longevity on doing a podcast, it's like, right, if I'm going to cover an actor, I've got a solid 100 episodes to cover them. And like at the work rate, like, so I started it in 2017, like I was like, well, at the work rate he was at then, it's like, well, it's just going to keep going. Like, I'm never going to run out of material. And like, yeah, kind of, I did it for a year, and then I took a 2-year hiatus. And then, yeah, came back this April, but came back with a veracity and just kind of what I like to describe as a Nicolas Cage like work ethic, in that I was getting to the point where I was like recording, I think it was 1 week, like with interviews and like episodes. I like recorded 10 episodes in 5 days, where I was just like every day, like an interview and a full episode, just or like 2 interviews. And I was like, I don't know. Yeah. But back to the original point of why I started it was I found him so fascinating and like, I don't know, like, wanting, like, I'd kind of become a bit of a recluse at the time anyway, and was like it really into podcasts, kind of like got into them, I don't know, like 2013, 14. I think it was like around the advent of Distraction Pieces, like the Scroobius Pit podcast, like got into that. I'd like dabbled with like the Gervais podcast back in the day, but that was kind of like an anomaly in on itself, because like it was kind of, they were doing it before there was this like, or now it's like, do you know what I mean, everyone and their mum's got a fucking podcast. like like and yeah, it's, I just kind of was just kind of coming up with ideas, and then thought of Nic Cage, came up with the name Caged In, and kind of had a thesis at the beginning that, like, I've since ditched because yeah, I don't know, I found it quite insensitive in that it was if I watched, like, because obviously Nicolas Cage was known for being this crazy like unhinged guy, and I guess like the narrative, like the podcast in a way has this narrative that I'm quite mean at the start of the podcast. It's almost like it's a chore to do it and every 10 episodes I took a IQ test to be like, is this rotting my mind? Like, am I going to go insane like this supposed insanity of Nicolas Cage throughout it? And like, not to go too deep, but like the reason I stopped the podcast for 2 years was like I had like somewhat of like I don't want to like say mental breakdown, but like had very, very severe like mental health issues, and like I was like, I don't really want to like I like going through that myself and just kind of reflecting on it and going through therapy. I was like, I don't think like that's the angle I want to take, and like had some big like life changing things that happened within like the 2 years of not doing the podcast, and like I don't know, I've kind of come back with like, I feel like I'm a better podcaster and like a kinder podcaster on Nick, and it's I don't know, I guess for people who haven't listened, like it's quite nice in the fact that I've like warmed up to him, and like over the time, like my kind of like angry exterior has melted down, and it's kind of this warm glowing affection for Nicolas Cage. And like I think he, like, now I'm like, he is one of the best actors like of his generation, maybe of any generation. Like he's fantastic.
That's the man, because like I've like loved Nic Cage and his films since like high school, because that was me and John, who I've had on this podcast. We've obviously been like friends since high school, and it was kind of like from the Channel 5 days of being a kid and seeing the action films. So you had like Snake Eyes and Face Off and The Rock, to then go into high school and then be like, you know, you kind of want to be more critical and analytical of things. So then you start watching things with a different like point of view. So we just were watching Nic Cage films, and you've got the full spectrum, and it was just before his direct to DVD like explosion. So we had some really boss films to watch that we really enjoyed. And since like high school, I've been obsessed with them. Like I've got this, we've both got these Nic Cage vests where he's dressed as Jesus, and it just says WWND, what would Nick do? And I shit, you know, I've worn that to every single job interview I've had since I bought that vest to like bring me luck. I did a skydive in like 2012, 2013, and I wore it to that because I needed his support.
That's amazing.
And we've got an Excel spreadsheet now to see who's watched the most films at the moment. We keep a tally. So like if we watch them together, we like make a note and we all check out. I think John's just a bit ahead of me at the moment. But apart from a few fans like that, a lot of people either take him or leave him, and then a lot of people just shit on him outright. Yeah. And I think that is like, if you approach those like his films from that negative perspective, then every film he has kind of plays into that narrative of it, that negative narrative. But there's such like a nuance, I think, to his performances that is understated, and I don't think it's really appreciated by people who just want to shit on him.
Well, for me, it's that thing that he doesn't just like, they think like he's had financial troubles and he's kind of doing it just for a quick buck, which like to a degree, like there are questionable movies in his catalogue as to like the thing, as to like his like reasoning for doing it, but within those periods, so the early 2010s, there is like straight to DVD movies, but within that, I would argue there's still really interesting stuff, and like, he's doing really interesting stuff. Like something that I thought like, and it's case in point why you should never judge a book by its cover. There's the movie Stolen, which like has this awful front cover of just like an explosion and like Nic Cage running. Yeah, and like again, which is like a topic that comes up on the podcast a lot, because he's a man who's like in his older age, like does not look good running on film. Like it's kind of like Tom Cruise is the guy for running, like Nic Cage not so much. But that was really great, and like you get these gems like that pop out, like 2014's Joe.
I fucking love Joe. When people say he hasn't brought out a good film in years, that's the first film I always recommend.
and it's like, and it's the stuff he's doing now as well. Like, it's really interesting, and like, I can't remember who it was on the podcast, like, mentioned that like now it's a case in point that he is being directed by people who are fans of those movies that you were talking about, like that kind of like what people would call the golden era of Cage, that post leaving Las Vegas era where he kind of like was a marquee name. So like you got a ridiculous run, like you got The Rock, Con Air, Face Off, and then I think it's like City of Angels, like Snake Eyes, up until like 2001. Like it's a real solid chunk of just stuff that is like, wow. Like when you think of like 90s cinema, it's like those are kind of like benchmark go-to films, and like those people have kind of like 20 years later. So that's why we've got like a Panos Cosmatos, like putting Nicolas Cage in Mandy, or like some of like the stuff he's kind of got on his slate to come up, like really interesting stuff. There's a film, and I've kind of like been following it since like it kind of got announced, Willy's Wonderland, which we'll see Nicolas Cage playing a janitor in this kind of Five Nights at Freddy's style horror inflected comedy. Well, I think it's a comedy inflected horror in that like there's these evil animatronics, and Nic Cage is like a janitor of an amusement park. He has to like kill them, but like that's just been announced that he's totally silent in the movie, and it's like that is testament that like for somebody to take that risk on him, that like he's not just a fantastic actor, like he's like like I don't know, he can do like a totally like visual performance, like it's shit on a lot, but like you look at Vampire's Kiss, like I'm a massive defender of that movie, because like I would like argue like it's a film that's way before its time. Like I don't know, people like put up American Psycho on this kind of like, oh, it's great. Do you know what I mean? All the film bros and all the people like, I don't know, because it's got that Bret Easton Ellis connection. It's like, oh, it's a bit like thingy. Whereas Vampire's Kiss plays in that same sandbox of like this kind of corporate and guy like kind of getting more depraved and like this thing of depravity. But it came out in 1989, and it's kind of like it's a film that slots perfectly into like the kind of late 2000s, like moving forward. Like now, like you watch that movie and it's like it could be made yesterday, and it's like it's fucking amazing. Like
yeah, that's the thing, man. I think it is just kind of like not even an appreciation, like an underutilization. Like I've just been listening to your Brian Taylor podcast, which was brilliant, and they were talking about how they wanted to cast him in Crank, and I can't remember what year Crank came out. Was that early 2000s?
So that would have been like 2007, I think.
So they were considering him for that role kind of way back then. Yeah. And it just shows the star quality you were talking about, but also the experimentation and the like fun he has with roles and stuff that unfortunately they couldn't afford him or whatever happened. But there's that thing that you always wonder, like, well, how many roles do you reckon he's been considered for, and how many things has he passed on due to either budgets or time and stuff that could have propelled him a bit? Like the way The National Treasure did. Another film could have been another vehicle for him.
Well, there's a perfect example in that, like, there's back to the point of like he's chasing the like mighty dollar like all the time. He turned down a part in Expendables 3 to do Joe, which shows that like he cares about acting, because like Joe is like massively underseen, massively kind of like floated under the radar, like, and like I would argue like it should have got the attention and the praise that Adam Sandler did for Uncut Gems.
Oh, in that, like, kind of 100%.
Like he had kind of been pigeonholed and like kind of cast out to be this schlock B movie actor.
Yeah. Joe should have done for him what John Wick did for Keanu.
Yes, perfect example. Like, and there's so many like, I don't know, there's so many like shortcomings, and like he's an actor, and like especially from speaking to like writers and directors who's been shit on a lot of times, like in regards to movies that didn't really get their due, like, or kind of didn't really get what they deserved. Like, only yesterday I recorded an episode about Paul Schrader movie Dying of the Light that is, like, got a really interesting story in that it was actually re-edited by Paul Schrader years later, and kind of like you can only watch it like at UCLA or like the Museum of like Modern History in like New York, or like a couple other places, as like an educational piece, because like there's all this friction with the studio or whatever, or you can download it illegally, which unfortunately some of us had to do, but it was for educational purposes.
I haven't seen the re-edits of Dying of the Light because it had such a strong premise.
Yeah,
it was like, again, there's so many things, and you talk about in that Brian Taylor podcast where the will of the studio and these execs just destroy the thing. And I know we got caught in a little bit of a Twitter thread with the director from Army of One, which was a victim to it as well. Yeah,
which like that for me like is massive, and like off the back of that, like I think I'm at some point gonna be talking to Larry Charles about like once he's got his re-edit of Army of One, like he said, like I'd love to come talk about it, because like that is something that's always fascinated me. Like I said in the start, like that thing of art versus commerce, like which like like when I went to music college and did like that was my dissertation. I looked at the band Television, who kind of like floated under the radar of like critical, like they all critical acclaim, but not really like they're not really seen as like the godfathers of punk that they kind of deserve. And like I don't know, look at case points of like Kings of Leon for instance, like the moment they kind of looked like the package and kind of looked like this kind of commercial product was the moment that they were like everywhere. Do you know what I mean? They were kind of like Enemy front cover, and kind of like not even that, they were like your mum was listening to them. Do you know what I mean? Like she was bopping to Sex on Fire. And yeah, the more I like speak to creatives in the film industry, the more like it is that thing of like there's so many compromises made. And like I spoke to a writer, Todd Farmer, and I think Brian Taylor, like to the point as well, says like there's so many scripts that are written that you'll never see, and if you do see them, they're not the movie that was written.
Because there's always like articles that come out where it's like the 10 most blacklisted scripts or whatever that everyone wants to make, but no one does. And then 20 years later, some film will come out that's swept the Oscars, and then an article will come out say like in 2003 this was one of the most liked but never made scripts. And it's always such a weird thing to see. But the thing I don't get, I may be wrong on this, but Nic Cage, he doesn't have a production company or anything, does he?
He does, yeah. Saturn Films. Like they've only released a handful of movies, like a lot of them starring him.
Yeah, because that's what I was thinking. Because like Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt have these kind of production vehicles which help them with the weight of the film. So I'm always kind of wondering why he doesn't kind of resort more to that.
Yeah,
kind of like route with things.
Well, it's really interesting. Like he's directed one movie, Sunny, that like, and that again, like a really interesting story, and that's a script, like you're saying, like blacklisted. He got in like the 1980s or like the early 1990s, and then kind of nobody wanted to make it, and then I think that might be the first release on like through his production company, but yeah, from like. Without looking, I think there's only like a roster of like 5, maybe 6, 7 movies that were released like through his production company. And like, yeah, you mentioning like Brad Pitt, like I think somebody like mentioned the other day I saw online, he's produced more movies than he's acted in.
What?
And it's like, yeah, like he's kind of, and he's doing it to a really good degree that like, the movies he is producing are not only just like he's like doing some really great movies, but like movies that have like a message. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, like Brad Pitt is one of the producers on 12 Years a Slave. Like, and I guess like that is why like he's I think he's in it as well, because that as well, to get even more funding for that movie, like he'll be like, well, I will have a cameo, or I'll have a small part in that movie, because like to push like the cachet of like a relatively unknown director at the time in Steve McQueen, like to get that movie and tell that like that very vital story at that time, and like, well, when we're speaking now, even more so.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
It's a weird one, because like if the things he's going to kind of are going to direct to DVD anyway, he could really kind of take a more hands-on approach, like with Kevin Smith and how he did Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, where they got it funded and then they went on a roadshow with it, and they kind of did it that way. There's different ways that I don't know if he's just because he is an actor, like, or he sees himself as an actor pure and simply doesn't want to meddle with anything else.
Well, yeah, I think it's that thing that, like, obviously, I don't know, like, he's a very, very private guy, like, do you know what I mean? Like, and when you do see interviews with him or read articles or interviews, they are predominantly, he is talking about acting. It's either he's talking about his love for like German expressionistic like acting, or like, do you know what I mean? He's very happy to talk about the roles he's done and stuff like that. But I can only think like he's probably been burnt by the industry. Like, obviously, like it's very well known that like his manager didn't pay the taxes that Nicolas Cage owed, and that's what kind of led to this boom of VOD or straight to DVD movies of the early 2010s. And it's like, I guess it's that thing. And yeah, you look at the films he has like on his production company. One of them's Next, which like I like. I love Nic Cage, but like that movie, I will take a hard pass on, please.
Oh, really? That's the one where he can see like a few seconds into the future, isn't he? He's a Vegas magician. Is that one?
Yeah.
With Jessica Biel.
But it's got like, I don't know. I don't want to spoil it just in case anyone does want to watch it. But like, it's got one of the cardinal sins you never do for an ending. Like, yeah. Like, fuck it, I'll say it. It's got that it was all a dream ending, which like is the perfect way to like puncture any kind of art, to be like, well, this is a load of bullshit. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I think we all feared that was going to be the end of Lost, but like it was even more disappointing than that. Like,
yeah, I think the only film of his that I kind of will pass on is Bangkok Dangerous. I've seen everything else and I'll always give a go, but I've seen that a couple of times and it's just a chore. Well, I think that's the only film for me that's like the one that I'd consider a bad film.
Yeah, but like even with that, like, I don't know. No, I don't think he does anything interesting in that. Like, there is a couple that like kind of I'm glad I've watched them, but like won't really be returning to, like or maybe not for him. Like another one for me is like Left Behind, like just because we don't really get to see Nicolas Cage do what he does, or like he doesn't really do much of anything. It's like,
or like, have you seen 211?
Not yet. No.
That's
a lot of the latter stage like Nic Cage's, and especially like doing the podcast, like when I put out like calls for people to like be guests, it kind of like the last 5 years people have kind of gone like, oh, no thank you, or like do you know what I mean? Like, if anything got picked up in the last few of his last few years, it will be like people going, can I do Colour Out of Space, can I do Mandy, can I do like the interesting ones, the kind of like straight to DVD, straight to Netflix movies. People are like, I like myself before, like, do you know what I mean? Like, some of them just sneak their way out, and it's like, really? There's another one? Like,
Yeah, that's the thing, man. I always go to like Asda. My girlfriend's sick of it because like I walk in and go new Nic Cage film, and I'll walk straight to the DVD section, and 9 times out of 10 there is a new Nic Cage film that I can buy, or the one I did want, which was £7, is now £3, and I found some really good films from those.
yeah. I was in there recently, and I noticed that there was a solid like 5 Nic Cage movies, and like I'm not talking like they had like Face Off for like, do you know what I mean, like on special. They were all like recent Nic Cage movies, so like a 211 or like Running with the Devil, and it's kind of like you look at that and you're like, whoa, it's Larry Fishburne's in it as well, or should I give him his proper Lawrence Fishburne, as he's now known, or like, yeah, like Grand Isle. You like look at you see that in there, and it's like, it's Nic Cage and like Fraser Crane, like Kelsey Grammer, like it's like what is going on? But then like he's an actor who's taken like, I don't know, a weird turn. I saw a poster for a movie he's in that's like, again, looks like a lot of these Nic Cage movies where it's like this, they kind of all have the same look of the poster, and it's that kind of like like Fast and the Furious-esque, like, I don't know, Avengers, like a lot of people.
I always enjoy like picking up a Nic Cage DVD and then trying to match it to which DVD it's trying to emulate, as if it's trying to trick people. Because it was the Humanity Bureau, the colors were just swapped around for Blade Runner 2049.
Amazing.
So it's like blue and orange on the Humanity Bureau, but then it's orange and blue with the exact same like layout of the faces and like the poses. I was like, are you just trying to like hope that some guy's in a rush and is trying to, his wife or whoever's just like, just get the new Blade Runner film and get it out to pizza and fuck off, and he just quickly grabs what he thinks is it, and that's how they get like.
There's a whole thing of like, there are studios who make like, to that point, there are studios who make like really shoddy like B-movie rip-offs of like, so you can get like Transmorphers, which is like do you know what I mean, like it's almost like the living embodiment of that meme where it's like when your mum says like, no, you don't need Kellogg's, we've got cornflakes at home, like it's like, yeah, but the own brand like is not quite the same, and it's like, yeah, those movies very much fall into to that category. And like, I don't know, I'm just really excited to, especially, I guess it's something I haven't really talked about a lot. I thought it would kind of dominate like the conversation when talking about Nic Cage recently, but I guess because we don't really know much and just news is changing all the time, and like it feels like it was a lifetime ago that like Tiger King was a thing, but Nic Cage cast as Joe Exotic is just like, again, like a wild choice for me, and just like, wow, like what is this going to even be?
Yeah, for me, like, because that kind of spun me, because it's meant to be a series, isn't it, like episodical? Well, he's gone on the record as saying he's a film star, not a TV star. So I don't know if it is, if it's not, what's going to happen with it. But then I was worried because there's meant to be that like meta film where he's playing himself.
Yes.
And I don't know where that is in level of production and things. So what's actually going to happen with which is going to come first, and then?
Well, I guess now we're not like, it's all kind of like, it's all up in the air, like in regards to that, like, yeah, because obviously I do try and keep my like finger on the pulse of like what is happening with stuff. I know that the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, like where he plays himself, was scheduled for next year, but I guess that would have been with like maybe a summer or autumn shoot this year. But I guess that's kind of been pushed back, and like, yeah, really interestingly as well, you can find the script for that online.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like and yeah, I think it's like, I don't know, I'm toying with the idea of possibly covering the script of that on the podcast, but at the same time, like, I don't know, like it would be like reviewing someone's demos. It kind of feels a bit like cruel to do so. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, well, a script can change, and a director's vision can, like, do you know what I mean? Like, some of the greatest movies are probably like off scripts that weren't the best, but a good director will make something great out of them, and vice versa.
Yeah, it's so interesting, man. And like, you're my first podcaster guest on this. I've had like comic writers and musicians and things. So I also wanted to kind of get into the nuts and bolts of the podcast scene. So you obviously started in 2017 and took that hiatus, but how did you get started with the actual podcast itself? Like, what gear and like where did you first set up like shop?
So I've always kept it pretty like DIY in regards to like setup, and it's been the same. And like, if anything, I've just got a bit better at like processing the audio. Like, and I've tried to live by the rule of like, if I can get like the best kind of audio going in, like, then it's less work to do on the other side. But as I've kind of got into it more, I'm like, oh, like, yeah, like this year I treated myself to Logic, like, because I was doing it. I got like an M audio interface, again, not massively expensive. Like an SM58 mic, just the kind of like gig standard. Like, I'd always played in bands and stuff like that, and like recorded music at home. So like, kind of just like picked up little bits here and there. I started off with, I think it was like it was like an SE XA1 microphone to start off with. But like, I don't know, I think with the way that like I kind of sometimes, like a lot of the earlier episodes I recorded solo, so that I found getting like more of like a tactile microphone like the SM58 that kind of isn't massively sensitive, and like, as you can probably see now, like obviously people listening won't be able to, like, I don't know, like I will grab the mic quite a bit and stuff like that, and obviously you can't really do that, and like I like to keep like doing those ones on my own, I like to keep the energy up. So like I would walk around my flat, like I'd or like stand up and almost like treat the podcast, like those ones on my own, like a, I don't know, like a stand-up set, or like a kind of like, do you know what I mean? Like a TED talk, like a manic TED talk of like a man trying to tell you what happens in a Nicolas Cage film, and like those ones, like editing, like to edit those, I would literally record until the point that like my brain like failed me, and like I ran out of stuff to say. Put an edit point in, like kind of go, right, do a count in there. That's where I am in my notes. Let's just jump off from that point. And like, yeah, some of those early ones like will be like 45-minute episodes and are recorded in 2 takes of just like constant talking. And it's just like, I don't know, like a very manic approach. And like gear wise, yeah, as I said, like it's just simple. It's Logic. It's just like an inexpensive, I don't know, maybe like £100 like audio interface, and yeah, like just, I don't know, SM58, but like always with like a little
with a pop shield on, or a
pop shield, just like I do keep toying with the idea of getting one of those like MTV style I don't know what they call them, like mic flags, I think they call them,
like the square things around it.
The branding, so like just to make myself feel like I'm doing something like a bit more. I'm currently like I'm living at my parents at the moment, and like I don't know, like the setup I've got here is great. So it's just recorded in my bedroom, but then like say when recording the podcast, like I have notes up and stuff like that. I've got like a 38-inch TV that I plug my laptop in, so I have like a second screen. So I've always just been very like, what have I got that I can kind of make the podcast work? And I think that's the joy of making podcasts is you can do it as like inexpensively or as expensively as you want to. Like it's kind of, you can put in as much money as you want to, and like obviously there is this thing like you want the audio to sound good, but like I don't know, I've always took the approach like aim for the content, like first of all, like I don't know, like but then in the next breath, like there's like the early Caged in episodes, like audio wise and stuff like that. I personally can't listen to them because I'm like kind of like, you've come so far. But like I've always had this like, I don't think podcasting like is a weird thing in that like obviously yourself, you're like a musician, like you can practice your songs and like you can kind of like demo them and you can present them to people when they're a finished product. Whereas like with a podcasting, whether it's like, if you don't know that much about like processing audio or like recording a voice, you just have to start doing it. Like you like, do you know what I mean? Episode 1 will be shoddy, and like over time it may get better if you put the time and effort in to do so. Whereas like, yeah, like you don't have that luxury of being able to like, you can't like, you could record 20 episodes at home, but unless like they're actually going out and you're getting the feedback and like, I don't know, I guess we're all to all intents and purposes in a small way trying to seek validation. I guess that's why we feel like we have that thing that like, my voice needs to be heard on whatever specific topic it is, or like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Yeah, I should be the like leading conversations or whatever like your kind of like thing may be. But over time, from actually putting a podcast out, that's the only way you will get better at like being a raconteur and telling stories, or like your interview technique will be like better. Like even coming back to podcasting, which like I like, not to blow my own trumpet, but I think I got quite good quite quickly again. Like obviously I had it under my belt of like doing it all that time ago. But like, it's going to be a real shocker. Like, there's an episode for Left Behind that was like recorded, but like really early on when I came back, and like, there's loads of stuff that like I very quickly learned that's like, right, like this is how I exactly want the format to be, and like that episode won't have any of that, but that's like not coming out. Do you know what I mean? That's coming out later because it's all like kind of out of order. So like all of a sudden there'll be this episode that like, I'm already like shitting myself about putting out because I'm like, oh, like I personally, like, it's a fantastic guest. Like like one of my favourite podcasters and comedians, Carl Donnelly, like chatted to me about the movie, but then like I don't know, there's part of me that's like, do you reckon he'll be up for coming back on? Because like now I'm better, but that's not how podcasting works. And like, but that's what makes it fun and interesting. Like, I don't know, like, I don't know about you, but I like, apart from audio, like wise, like, and editing wise, I tend not to listen back to them that much. Like,
no, I don't. I've had people mess with you going, oh, and like comment on something talked about, and I'm like, I can't really remember what you've.
Yeah.
Can you like tell me the whole paragraph of what was been said? Things. But do you have a music background? I know, so you've studied it, but you've been in bands and things.
Yeah, I've been in bands.
As the singer, or
I've kind of done a bit of different things. So like my first ever band at school, I was a singer, and like played guitar. And then, like, in my late teens, like early 20s, I was like a keyboard player and like background vocalist in like a kind of new wave, post-punk band. Yeah. But then, like, I got really into like spoken word and like was doing like that kind of thing, and always been like a massive like admirer of hip hop. Yeah. Like, in my spare time now, like, I mess around with like just making like sampling songs and like making hip hop beats and stuff like that, and like I don't know, I'm not sure if you must have heard the like Caged in like theme song, like kind of hip hop, like like I mess about with stuff like that. So like I've actually got like a plug-in or like a kind of VST keyboard that is just all Nic Cage screaming, which is like something I made, like, and like I don't know, I find that really interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do have a music
Because
background. Yeah.
that was kind of like what I was going to make the point of, and I think you might agree with me, but I think for myself, what gave me the confidence to do a podcasting thing was performing live, performing in front of any amount of people has given me a confidence and a way to talk in front of people and to talk into a microphone as well, that I think people who may be starting podcasts and haven't had that live experience have some trepidation about. So I think it's the same thing. And I think that's how I kind of assumed you had a music background, is the same way that like Scroobius Pip obviously started in music, is people have this, not a natural talent, but it's a refined talent because of being in music and being in front of a microphone, that I think lends itself really well to podcasts. It's the same thing with like obviously like Joe Rogan and Bear Kreischer and stuff, being stand-up comics and being in front of a microphone.
Well, that's something like I've like dabbled in as well. I've like kind of got this like scattergun brain where like I don't know, I'm like all the things I love, I'm like I want to try it. Like, I love music, and like it's that thing with me with music. Like I kind of learned like in my early 20s, I was like, I'm not like the best at my instrument and stuff like that, but like I'll be a hobbyist, and like I like that's not something I want to pursue. And that's the freedom with like podcasting is like it is something like if you kind of are passionate about something and you can put the work in like quite solo. Do you know what I mean? It's talking at the end of the day. Like you can, like anyone can, like with anything you can practice. Like, and it's, I don't know, it's something I've always talked to people about films or music or whatever. I love those kind of late night conversations with people and kind of really like digging, picking the meat off of a subject and stuff like that. So yeah, and like I've done a couple of like open mics. Like partly it was, I don't know, one was like, what would that be like? And I did it to be like, well, if I can get better at doing that, I can get better at being a podcaster. Yeah. So it's almost like trying to like feed, like, do you know what I mean? Like
everything just kind of like life experiences and talent kind of all just feeds into like every passion. So it's like I've written stand-up bits and I've got like a phone full of notes and stuff. I've not done it purely because I just don't have the time at the moment, but it's something I've always enjoyed doing, and I'm a huge comedy fan. So it's something I'd like to do, maybe something down the line, but even just that writing aspect of it and doing spoken word writing and things, it all kind of funnels down into like that one base skill, I think, that you can use across all mediums.
Well, yeah, I often worry that, like, I don't know, like, am I kind of like spreading myself thin, or like, is it a thing of like, I don't know, is it like a thing of like anxiety and like I've kind of worked through like things of having like low self-esteem and kind of have this thing like I'll happily like fail on something before I've even really like kicked off on it. Do you know what I mean? So like when like for me, like the fact that I've like done the podcast for so long, it's like I sometimes go, oh, it's like, it's quite good of you, mate, that like instead of going like, oh, it's really shit, like before people have told me it's shit, or like, I don't know, yeah, so like that's always been like a slight problem for me, in that like, I don't know, like I'll lack the faith in myself that feeds into that kind of thing of like, I'll try this for a bit and then kind of like, I don't know, I'll move on to this, and kind of like I'll dip my toe in without like just going, fuck it, like let's get immersed in this, in whatever it is, and stay in there. And it is, I don't know, I guess it's that thing when you've got other stuff to do, you kind of get inspired on like the other things. I'm not sure if you find it, like if I'm like making music, like, or like I'm kind of fed up with like chasing leads on like podcast guests, like kind of doing research, I'll be like, you know what, I've been listening to this old like 70s soul song, and I can really hear a way that I can like chop that up, like, and then like that's like the rest of the day I'll be doing that, and then like I'll kind of like I'll wake up the next day and then like be refreshed and be like, oh, actually no, I really want to kind of like get back into like doing like a podcasting thing, or like, yeah, recently I've started like writing, just again, like I want to kind of tell stories like that I have like from doing the podcast that I don't think warrant like being in. They don't quite fit in the podcast. It will either be like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, a really long intro which kind of like derails from the point of the film itself, but then like, I don't know, yeah, like run-ins with like directors and stuff like that. Like I had a run-in with like the director Yui Boll. I'm not sure if you're aware of him. He directed like a lot of like video game adaptations. So,
Oh,
like,
really?
House of the Dead, I think Dead or Alive. All of them are absolute dog shit. Like none of them are good. But like, yeah, like had kind of like these weird exchanges like over Twitter and email with him and his people, and it's like, yeah, I could do that as a podcast episode, but like part of me is like, I'd love to flex that like writing muscle, and again it all feeds into the same thing. Like this, it's a way, like, I don't, not to sound like, I don't know, like I'm just like, oh, it will bring me more traffic to the podcast, but it's like that is a part of it. Like, yeah, people will find the podcast through that or whatever.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, I don't know, I think they're fun. Like, to me, their life, yeah, like, again, like that could be like a stand-up bit being kind of like, or whatever, like, and it's just following those avenues. Like, I don't know, like personally, I think, how did I get myself in a situation where I'm kind of being like almost threatened into doing like ads for this guy's restaurant, like to get him to be a guest on the podcast, who's like famous, like, yeah, like famously called out critics and directors for boxing matches because he disagrees with their like criticism of his work. And it's like, that to me is like a really funny like story besides it happening to me. And like, I don't know, like I think it will get discussed in like, yeah, the Frozen Ground episode. Like, I got blocked on Twitter by John Cusack. Like,
really?
Again, like, yeah, like that is a story that like kind of can be told in the podcast.
And
like,
it can be told right now. How did you get blocked by John Cusack?
I don't think it's very hard to get blocked by John Cusack on Twitter. He seems to be quite an angry guy. And again, somebody like I used to love. That's a whole nother thing, because I don't know. Like, as I've got older, I used to love High Fidelity, the movie, and like kind of as I've got older and reassessed that movie, I don't think it personally like stands up and kind of like the messages on like relationships and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, I think as a teen into my early 20s, I was like, I love Rob Gordon, like I am him. And then as you get older, you realise, oh no, he's pretty much the villain of the piece. Like, and there's like I guess the Hulu like gender swap like remake series is kind of them going, yeah, like the film is a bit like eggy in places, like in regards to its sexual politics. But that besides the point, yeah, I had a guest on my podcast, a guy called Martin Huckster, who told a story of how he got blocked on Twitter by John Cusack. Again, a very like innocuous story of just like he had said something like very harmless, and John Cusack took it the wrong way, and that was it, gone. And I was like quite naive, like quite like maybe like in the first 10 episodes of the podcast, I was like, what would be a fun, like, and I've always like, that's the thing, I've got my tongue firmly in my cheek a lot of the time. I just put out like a tweet that I thought was just like, I thought nothing of it. And I remember the day I was laying on the sofa watching Catfish, the TV show, on MTV, and like all of a sudden my phone was like blowing up. Like, do you know what I mean? Like all these tweets coming in. I was like, oh, what the fuck? I was like, and this is like, I don't know, cancel culture wasn't like that big in 2017. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it was like maybe the hipsters knew about cancel culture, but I certainly didn't. I just thought like, oh wow, maybe this is it. Maybe somebody's like really got behind the podcast. It's like, oh no, John Cusack has replied to a tweet I've put out, which was, listen to this week's episode of the Caged In podcast to hear how my guest at Martin Huckster got blocked by at John Cusack. And I was just met with a tweet that said, or you could ask me. And I was like, oh, fantastic. And like, obviously, like, my natural tone to go to was like, again, tongue in cheek, a bit like sarcastic, was like, well, great, John. I would love to like chat to you about like what happened. Like, if there's any chance like we could like maybe like have a chat via Skype, I could get you on the podcast. I'd love to talk to you about like working on Con Air as well and like the frozen ground. But that was just the tip of the iceberg, because it wasn't just him who had like kind of, because he's got this thing of quote tweeting a lot of people. So I had this just barrage of people literally calling me like the biggest piece of shit, like saying like you're looking to like use John's name to get people to listen to your like shitty podcast. And I was like, that like I'm not that cynical, but more importantly, I'm not that smart. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, I'm not that, I don't know, like, I'm too anxious to like live by that. Like, all news is like, yeah, all news is good news.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Yeah. Like,
yeah, I don't have the balls or confidence to like court controversy.
Yeah,
I got a tweet or something to just like incite people and then hope that some traffic will come to me.
I put out like quite an innocuous tweet very recently that got quote tweeted by Scroobius Pip, and like his like initial tweet was like quite like, I don't know, to be like, oh, woe is me, but like it was regarding the Black Lives Matter movement. He'd put out a tweet that said about like a lot of companies seem a bit like, do you know what I mean? Like it either seems like hollow gestures or they're not doing anything. And like, obviously, like at this time, it was like maybe like a week or so after like the initial like George Floyd incident, and like kind of like I'd personally been like educating myself and like, do you know what I mean? Like putting whatever I can, like spreading information that is vital out there. But it was like, I replied saying, oh, one company who really seems to care is Ben & Jerry's. And like, from listening to his podcast, I know like he's done episodes with Ben & Jerry's and always talks about Ben & Jerry's. So I got quote tweeted being like, if the first thing you say about like what's happening is like to congratulate a ice cream company, well, that's like pretty shit based. Like, I'm paraphrasing, which was like, and I like that again. Like, I was like, that sent me into like a panic, like yourself. Like, I don't want to cause any controversy, and like very shortly after, like to his credit, did like a tweet that was like an edit to say like, this isn't the first thing that like this guy said about like the Black Lives Matter movement, but like, yeah, as somebody who like can be quite anxious a lot of the time, my first initial thing was like, oh, nobody's gonna read the like the follow-up tweet, like do you know what I mean? Like, and it's, I don't know, it's not about me, and I like, part of me is like, I wish I didn't get like put on blast, because I'm just trying to like, I am like wholeheartedly trying to, I don't know, I sound like I'm kind of like being like, oh, I'm a really good guy like here, but like,
well, you were just kind of offering an example to what he said.
Yeah.
Like, innocently, it wasn't trying to like virtue signal or say anything to detract. It was just kind of saying, well, I know you're a fan of this, Dave said this, like,
yeah, well, and it's that thing that like I used to work at a cinema, and like they had a Ben & Jerry's stand, and like I had like Ben & Jerry's training, and like I actually do know like wholeheartedly like from having training from one of their representatives, and like the history of the company, are a company who are amazing when it comes to social issues and like their charitable donations and stuff like that. Like, I think it was like 2016 during like Black Lives Matter like protests. Then, like Ben and Jerry were arrested at a protest. Like, do you know what I mean? But that's besides the point. Like, yeah, it's just that thing of like, I don't know. It's trying to avoid controversy at all points. So yeah, John Cusack said, like, his response was, "Oh, your guest was probably being a dick, just like you're being a dick," and then I was blocked.
Oh.
But then, like, for me, that was perfect. I just took the screenshot of, you know, like when you're blocked and it's like it brazenly lets you know. I just turned that into like a social media post saying like, the Caged In podcast is not endorsed by John Cusack. Like, it's just like it is what it is. Yeah. And I hope, like, I don't know. Yeah, obviously, I'm a massive fan of Scroobius Pip as well. I don't want to make it out like I'm not trying to come on here and start any beefs.
No, there's so many things, because I've tweeted from him, I've asked him questions and things, and he's not responded like negatively, but he's either responded abruptly or he's responded in a way that's like different, and it's so hard to get like your intent and voice across through like Twitter or anything written. And especially, I think Twitter, because it's such a volatile place, everything's kind of read as an attack anyway.
Yeah, well, and I think it's that thing as well, and it's like it brings it all back to podcasting as well, and it's something that like I haven't experienced myself, because like obviously I'm nowhere near on a platform like these kind of behemoths of podcasting. Is that like you get to know these like the hosts of these podcasts, do you know what I mean? And like the tone that you may approach them is like of a thing of like, you know, so much about their lives.
Yeah, it's a false sense of like familiarity.
Yeah, so you're kind of like, do you know what I mean? Like, you might come into a situation like, or yeah, perfect example, like, I don't know, like Joe Rogan has like his kind of like Bert Kreischer, Ari Shaffir, like that kind of like group. Like, you could easily just fall into the trap of like, I don't know, like saying something to like, do you know what I mean? Like on Twitter going, "Hey Bert, you big fat piece of shit." Like, because you've listened to those podcasts of those guys doing that, and obviously like you're just like, I want to be a part of the gang, I want to be one of the boys. But like, yeah, as you're saying, the volatile nature of Twitter, like they're probably just gonna be like, "Oh fucking hell," like, do you know what I mean? Like, fucking hell. And I don't know, like, yeah, like I haven't really experienced anyone like kind of, I don't know, it's pretty different for me because people don't know that much really about me. I can kind of hide behind this veil of being a Nic Cage like expert, as it were.
Yeah, I've had a few tweets misconstrued as sarcastic when I've been asking genuine questions, which has been a weird one. But it's the nature of Twitter. I think I hate Twitter, to be honest. It's my least favorite social media platform to use. It's kind of just, I just kind of use it because I use Facebook and Instagram. I just share stuff across to it, and I really only use it for the comic community and people like yourself. That's the only reason I'm still on it. Point. But what I wanted to ask, as we're getting into the ins and outs of podcasting as well, is, so you've had Brian Taylor on, who's the writer and director of Mom and Dad, and he did Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, but he didn't write that. You had Todd Farmer, who's Drive Angry. How do you approach these type of guests? And how do you get guests onto your show?
Funnily enough, like Twitter, like I just find like, if they've got a Twitter account, like I will just like give them a tweet, like, or like I will kind of hook or crook, just try and find ways that I can speak to them. So whether that's, I don't know, like I've contacted people's agents, like I just kind of like look for it, and it's quite easy. Like I would say to people out there, like if you really want to get a hold of someone, like Like you can do it like above board, like without that sounding like sinister. Do you know what I mean? Like without sounding like if you want to get hold of them, like you bloody go around their house and go through their bins. None of that. It is just all like tweeting. So like I had, and I guess like once you have one guest on as well, that
it gives itself like a validity or a weight to it.
Yeah, so I put out like a massive, like, well, a kind of like a really cheeky thing to do, I guess. And I guess it's this thing of like a confidence I came back to the podcast with after taking so much time off was I just added a load of different people I wanted on the podcast. One tweet and been like, any of you fancy like coming on for a chat? And all it took was, so it's Chris Hewitt of the Empire Film Podcast and like a writer for Empire Magazine. He responded saying, I would love to talk about Kick-Ass. And one of the great things about Chris Hewitt, obviously, apart from the fact that like he's an amazing podcast host and like journalist, is he has a blue tick. So him saying that, like very shortly after, I got a tweet response from Brian Taylor that said, I'm in. And obviously, like, I obviously don't know his like reasoning for it, but I do think like somebody like, do you know what I mean? Like if he clicked through to Chris Hewitt's account, he'd be like, oh, like,
yeah, it's got a weight to it now.
Yeah, gives it a bit of like, and then moving forward, anytime I've like emailed anyone, so like there's guests I've like got coming up or like I've recorded episodes with, so like I've got like Clarice Lockery from the Independent, like she's the chief film critic and fills in for Mark Commode on the like BBC 5 Live film podcast. And it's like all you need to do when you're emailing people is, it sounds like cheap or whatever, but like to just be like, I've had this person name brackets what their kind of like credits are, and then people like very quickly go, oh yeah, like, or like crazily like I don't know, I find the thrill of the chase like quite exciting when it comes to like guests, like just that thing of like I just look at stuff online and like it's not just like people in the film industry. So like I recently spoke to a guy called Mike Pearl, who is an author who's got this amazing theoretical book all about like scenarios that could happen and kind of looking at them in a serious way. But he is a Vice journalist as well, and he wrote an article back in 2017 where he interviewed Nicolas Cage only using Nicolas Cage quotes like from his movies. So like I just look on like stuff like that, like things that get sent to me. I'm like, right, let's speak to that guy. Like he's journalist. Go on Twitter or like kind of find him on like, yeah, I will do whatever. I will kind of like above board do what I need to do to kind of like, or what I can to get a guest, because I just think like, I don't know, yeah, like I'm in talks at the moment with a historian from New Orleans to talk about the kind of history of like the house that Nicolas Cage used to own, the idea of above ground burials and kind of the mausoleum. And that guy I found because he was quoted in an article that about Nic Cage's mausoleum in New Orleans. So I was like, he would like, I want to speak to that guy.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, like crazily as well, like Reddit, like there's an amazing, like for Nicolas Cage fans, there's an amazing subreddit called One True God. So, and I'm like an active, like I'm an active participant, because like, where are you going to promote a podcast about Nicolas Cage?
Yeah.
Then to a whole like kind of like it's kind of got a cult following, and like I don't know, yeah, like 30,000 like followers, maybe even more. Of yeah, like, and I've recently got contacted and like by a representative for a guy who was Nic Cage's stand-in for 10 years through Reddit. So
Really?
like, that one's like kind of fallen in my lap, and like in an email exchange, like kind of saying like they've been looking at obviously the fact that I am like I'm posting like episodes frequently, and like I guess they're probably seeing that I am getting these guests of people that like have worked with like Nic Cage. So like I don't know. I think it all again it all comes back into that thing. Like if you just persist with things, it all feeds into itself. And I guess weirdly, I plan to like start doing the podcast again before the pandemic. But then when it hit, like I guess like when it came to like guests, like it wasn't until like I started getting them, it was like, well, people are more willing to do it at the moment because they're at home, and it's like, and I'm not pushy with it. If people say like, if I don't get a response, like
you don't chase them for it.
I don't chase them. Like I don't know. Like I guess there's other avenues like you can take. Like I know IMDb Pro is like an avenue I've looked at, but I don't know. Yeah, it's just it's all quite it's exciting. You feel like a PI when like you're like I look through like IMDb or whatever, and then go like, oh right, I'll Google that name, or I'll find if they've like a social media presence, then like great. I will just I'll drop a message and then leave it. And like Twitter, if people have like open DMs. Fantastic. Even though that is like an empty avenue a lot of the time, because unless they follow you, it gets put into like a request folder with those messages from bots saying like, do you want to have sexy time like right now? Like so I guess like guests and other podcasters, like because I was thinking like, who's gonna, like when it comes to actual episodes, like who's going to know how to talk like, about something is people who do that themselves, like, and it gives me an opportunity to like listen. I don't know, I do have like a bit of like a process in getting like with guests. Like I've kind of I don't know, like I will make sure I listen to people's podcasts as well before like being like come on the podcast. Like we said, like anyone can have a podcast, and like obviously not just like, I don't know, I kind of want to be confident in the way that like we will have a good conversation.
That's definitely the most important thing. Like what you're saying about chasing guests and stuff, it's really similar to what I've been doing in terms of getting support slots and things. And when you email people about it, a lot of it is trying to find out who the booking agent is, or if there's a promoter, it's trying to find their email addresses. And then you include a paragraph about like, so when I email people, it's like, I've supported Chris Shiflett from the Foo Fighters, I've done this, I've done that, I've done that. And it's kind of just doing anything you can to try and make yourself seem as a more legitimate entity. And I think it's a really interesting thing, because like, I know for this podcast, a lot of it is people I know already, but then there's people like yourself who I'm a fan of and have a really interesting perspective and are doing something that I'm a big fan of in a medium anyway. So obviously, like, if someone's doing a fucking Nicolas Cage podcast, I have to talk to that guy.
Amazing. Well, it's that thing as well, like you saying about, like like writing that paragraph, and just kind of like, I don't know, when it comes to like finding people, it's, I don't know, it's just, it's just an interesting, like, intro. It's like,
an interesting pursuit. It's not like saying it's a hunt makes it sound creepy, but it's a pursuit, and it's trying to find like an email address or just an article that you can quote, or just some little bit of information that gives you an in that can then spark up a conversation to try and get something out of it, which is a really important and interesting thing. I know as this podcast progresses, I want to try and chase not bigger names, but names that are slightly bigger that I'm really interested in and a fan of. So it's trying to find ways to engage with them as well. It's a really interesting process with podcasting, I think, especially like interview-based ones.
Well, I've had it with people like ask me for, like yourself, ask me for advice of like how to get these like bigger names, and it's like, I guess it is that thing of just try it. Like, what's the worst people will say is no. Like, and it's like, move on with your day. Like I was saying, or just like look for guests as well. Like somebody was talking to me about their podcast and saying like they were offered a guest. I think it was like Eric Roberts, like to speak to him, and I was like, well, even if like you're not like, even if that's not kind of like the remit of, or like you're a film podcast, so like if you've got that opportunity, take it. And like I'm kind of like in an interesting point now where I'm kind of getting up to date with Nicolas Cage's movies, in that like there's kind of like a new avenue of people I'm trying to talk to in regards to like, I'm trying to now talk to directors who I want to kind of like, that's like moving forward, I want to be able to get to that point where I can talk to directors like before the movie comes out and try and get to the stage where I can like be at that kind of getting screeners or whatever, or being able to, and again, like that is something that's like possible to do, like in the first run of this podcast, like you saying, finding out bookers and like who's putting stuff on. For me, it's a similar thing of finding like distribution companies. Like when Mum and Dad came out in the UK, I had the opportunity to see that at a press screening, but like all through just finding out, right, who's releasing it over here? Vertigo Films, right? Go on their website, PR email, boom, boom, boom. Get contacted by like a third party agency who are actually running the PR for that movie. Unfortunately, in my case, it was a matter of an email on the day whilst I'm at work going, can you be in London by 12:30? I was like, if you had sent this email yesterday, I could have swapped my shift. I would have like, do you know what I mean? Even if you'd sent it an hour before, my stomach could have all of a sudden taken a funny turn, and I could have been there. But like it's just about like podcasting, putting yourself out there. You're not ever gonna get anything. Like I guess a lot of people will say this in life. You're not gonna get guests unless you ask.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a weird thing to try and like not only get the confidence for it, but then keep that confidence going. But it's such an interesting thing. I know I'm looking forward to it. I've got some names kind of booked in for down the line for this, which I'm excited to do. And it's just trying to keep engaging and talking to people that I enjoy talking to.
Yeah, like, and just being open to like happy accidents. Like we were talking earlier about Larry Charles. Like I am like, and I think a lot of people as well, whether they know it or not, Larry Charles has had a hand in forming so many people's like sense of humours. Like for me especially, like I'm a massive Seinfeld fan, and he wrote on that for like 5 years. Like directed like directed like the big Sacha Baron Cohen films in Borat, Bruno, and The Dictator. One of the directors on Curb Your Enthusiasm, again, argued one of like the best like kind of sitcoms in the last like X amount of years. And it's like all of those things have kind of like, do you know what I mean? Like had an impact on loads of people. Yeah. Like to this day, I don't think I've gone a week without somebody like saying my wife, like in that Borat voice, like, or like at least hearing some kind of reference to Borat. And it's like, well, that movie wouldn't have been like without, again, they might not know Larry Charles by name, but like,
they know of his work. And
exactly. Yeah.
That's the really interesting thing about like all this is like so many people are so instantly accessible through social media, and like there's a wealth of information so you can ask people. It's crazy. But have you tried reaching out to the man himself?
It's as I said earlier, like he seems like quite like a private guy, and I kind of don't know what the avenues would be to take to get to him. Like I don't know. Like I follow his son on Instagram, but that to me just feels a little like icky.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I feel a bit like, like
it'd be like a cheap ask, or it'd be a
and it's like I don't know. Like, it's a weird thing because like I'm not the only, and I know this. I'm not the only Nicolas Cage podcast. Like, but like weirdly, like I don't know. Like, I look at the others and like I personally don't listen to them because I just don't want like my head to be in German or like go like, oh, they've got this cool angle on it or whatever. Like, what,
Yeah, you don't want to be like influenced in a way that makes you lose your voice.
Yeah, like I don't know if someone goes like in like as a like a musician, someone goes, oh, there's a guy like who sounds like just like you. I don't really like. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah, that's when I write my like music. I don't listen to any country or folk or even rock. I'll listen to like Public Enemy, Horror, Dead Kennedys. I'll try and listen to anything except what I'm going to be writing in because it muddles like my own playing style and voice if I try and listen to something similar. And it's the same with podcasting as well.
Yeah, so like with regards to like listening to them, like I've just seen like I follow all of them on like Twitter and stuff like that, and I think I'm the only one dumb enough as well to ask these people to be guests and manage to get them. But like I think like that to me brings up another weird dichotomy and just like something that is like really interesting that all of these people, and like I'm talking like there's over 20 Nicolas Cage podcasts like but yeah, I'm the only one who's reached out to all of them as well and been like, can I interview you? I want to interview all of you guys. Like I don't know which form that will take. Like I probably won't. I'll say this on the podcast because it probably won't ever happen. Like, but if it does, like you've heard it here first. Is I always had this idea of like a kind of like true crime parody, all about trying to track down the first ever Nicolas Cage podcast, which is like, yeah, this they were called Cage Cast. Like, came out with one of the best names, like out the gate, and then like, they just kind of disappeared. Like got part way through and then just didn't do it. But I thought like, yeah, my thinking was it would make for the perfect like serial S-Town style like podcast series of like me trying to like track down, but in the whilst doing it, interviewing all of the other Nicolas Cage podcasts and kind of framing it in that like ask them about their podcast, but then like be like, so what do you know about Cagecast? Like they just disappeared like that, or and yeah, parody that like just because again like I don't like what's another string to the bow and like just have fun and obviously I'm running like 2020 has fucked all of us and like I'm fucked in the way that like Nicolas Cage is not out there making movies, so like this podcast has a finite date on it. Do you know what I mean? Like I've got a date on an Excel spreadsheet that says that's the final episode. So I've got to look for like new ways of talking about Cage, keeping it going, like, and or I don't know, pivot to another actor. But I just don't think there's somebody.
It's interesting, man, and I've been wondering this about Cage. Is it like, did he self-isolate in the States? Is he down in Somerset? Like, where is he? Is he in this country as we speak?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like. That's what I mean. Like, like I've thought about. I've got friends of mine who are filmmakers, and we've talked about the idea of doing like a small documentary about trying to go to Somerset and interviewing all those people who he bought a drink for in that pub.
I was so jealous.
Yeah, but like, it like back to your initial question of like trying to contact the man himself. I just hope, like, I don't know, weirdly hope that over the sea of all these other Nicolas Cage based podcast voices that I just hope that like somebody, like the fact that I talk to people that do know him, that like, something may get back to him, or like I do think to myself, like, again, if I plug away at it and like not in any like woo way, but like I have like spreadsheets where like I write down like guests that I want on the podcast, and like I don't do it as in like some kind of like if it's written. Do you know what I mean? Not like a secret or anything like that. But I'm like, right, if I kind of like have that there and like it could happen, and I think like one of the most like thought about it logically, the most feasible way for me to ever interview Nicolas Cage would be to like get to some level, like I guess like all podcasters are doing, to get to that press junket stage.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I think that would probably be the most successful way is whichever film he next does a press junket for, including the UK, is to get onto that.
Yeah, and it's that thing of, as well, of like, I don't know if like I need to like create like another, like, because obviously I've been like writing, like trying to like write more about film in general as well, whether to try and like go from that angle, like, because if like I'm not sure whether his like PR people, if they saw like, oh, this guy's got a Nicolas Cage podcast, that they're expecting a guy like, do you know what I mean, like in a, I don't know, a very Anaraki like stalker vibes. Like,
but I think for me, I'd hope for you that then if they did their research and they'd look at like your previous guests, including like Brian Taylor and things like that, then that's gonna lend some huge legitimacy to it.
Yeah, but I think like even if it was like I was given like a 5-minute like slot with him, like I don't know. I think from not that I know, like it's that thing. I don't have that over familiarity with Nicolas Cage, but I do think I know, like just from watching interviews and that, like what questions I would ask him that like I would hope excite him as well.
Yeah,
talk about those projects that like, or come at them from angles, like talk about Vampire's Kiss, but not in this way of like, oh, what do you think about like Vampire's Kiss, that it's the most memed film ever in the world?
Like actual questions that interest him and engage him in a way that gave genuine answers.
Yeah, and like you would always hope that like the excitement and the kind of like the genuine and like deep like love for a film like that would shine through. And like, yeah, again, like I would like, I don't know, to kind of like in my head like plan out like having like spoken to like Brian Taylor or something like that, I would have that icebreaker. Do you know what I mean? I'd be like, man, like I know Brian, do you know what I mean? He told me about the time you guys hopped the fence like to look at your tomb in New Orleans. Do you know what I mean? And like, I would obviously hope that would like kind of puncture any like tension and kind of like relax him if I ever got to speak to him. I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's I'm like, I don't think it's out of the realms of possibility.
No,
it's happen.
I think it's definitely feasible, especially if it's like a press junket style type thing. But I've taken up quite a lot of your time at the moment, man.
Yeah.
So, you know, what is in store, obviously, with the Caged In podcast? Obviously, I want to be on it at some point, so that is definitely...
Yeah, you're going to be on there, man. It's on the spreadsheet. If it's on the spreadsheet, it's happening.
Man. For a Primal...
Primal will be happening, yeah, and I guess that will be nearer the end of this year, like just from like kind of without looking at the spreadsheet on an exact date. Yeah, you will be on it, and like we'll probably that will be. I'm not sure when this will go out, but that will be recorded fairly soon.
I think this is end of June, beginning of July. I think for this episode, but
amazing. So
yeah. But what else is in store with the podcast at the moment? Have you got any other guests lined up? And what's your release schedule like? Is it weekly or is it?
It's a weekly podcast. So every Wednesday, you can get like Caged In. So you can find that anywhere at Caged In Pod. So all the socials, and just Caged In on all the podcast platforms and stuff like that. But in regards to guests, I've got I would have already had, I guess, by this point, or will be having very soon, James Dormer, who is the writer of Outcast, like Nicolas Cage and Hayden Christensen film, kind of
incredible,
set in, like medieval times, and apart from that, like, yeah, there's like interesting guests on the actual episodes themselves. So as I've mentioned, Clarice Lockery. There's Anna Buyagutska from the Final Girls and the Next Supremes podcast, who's like a film festival director, and like has these two amazing podcasts, one about American Horror Story and one about the parallels of feminism and horror movies, which like I couldn't recommend enough.
Oh, cool.
Comedians, Carl Donnelly, Rich Wilson. I don't know. Some of them I'm really excited about, but don't want to say anything just to like jinx them. And fantastic, like an insight and a kind of like to a film. I got to speak to the comedian and actor David Mills, who auditioned to be in Mandy, didn't get the role. So he will be on the Mandy episode.
Oh, amazing!
Which is I like to think is a really like interesting and like fun angle on it. That like a theme that runs throughout Caged In is this idea of like things never like. I don't know. There's all these parallel universes of what could have been, whether it's Nicolas Cage as Chev Chelios in the Crank movies, or what could have Dying of the Light of actually been. And yeah, what would Mandy have been if David Mills was in it as Brother Swan instead? So yeah, that's some of the stuff I've got coming up, and I've probably forgot a load of guests, but yeah, just keep up to date on the social.
Amazing. Well, I'll be putting links to everything from yours all over this episode, but thank you so much, man. Genuinely, like, as a new podcaster, this is only really, I think it'll be my 8th episode I'll release. It's great to talk to someone who's so far into it and so well there. So it's been a genuine pleasure to chat to you, mate. So thanks so much, and I can't wait to keep on listening to it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mike. This has been like an absolute pleasure to just chat about Nic Cage in like a different context. And yeah, it's been a really fun conversation. Just to kind of like,
I've had an absolute blast, man. Oh, well, thank you so much.
And there we have it. That's episode 8 of Into the Van, done with Pet from the Caged In podcast. I really hope you enjoyed it. You may have got a newfound respect for Nicolas Cage. You may hate him even more. The main thing is, though, we got through it together. So, if you have any other questions about podcasting, hit up me or Pet or anyone else. My email is always open, and, I really want to hear what you guys think about all this. I think we hit on some really great things about booking guests, and for me, this is definitely something I'm going to re-listen to for some inspiration and motivation when it hits me. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I hope to catch you on the next episode, and until then, take care and stay safe. Peace.